Hey everybody, Matt from Nerd Knights Painting coming at you with the another episode of Lord of the Rings. We're going to be doing Atarin, whatever his name is. We're going to be taking this ugly gray model and turning it into, this nice looking miniature with the focal point being on the cape. If this is your first time at the channel, or you've been watching or kind of checking us out, why don't you hit that subscribe button? Do me a favor. I'd really appreciate it. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy when I see new subscribers and people actually enjoy the work that I'm doing. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I'm going to show you an easy way on to paint this miniature with not a lot of effort. All right, let's go. First thing we're going to do is going to prime in black. I'm using Chaos Black, but feel free to use whatever you want. To complete our zenithal highlighting, we're going to use white from above. I'm actually using my airbrush for this one and just going some dead white from above. And directly above, nothing at an angle, just directly above to get that nice zenithal highlighting. Because it's really going to pop out in the base stages, basically, when we're going to use black. And you'll see here in a second. As always, make sure we are thinning our paints. If you've been watching this series, I stress that, thin your paints. I use a wet palette. We're going to be using Khorne Red as our first color that we're going to use on the cape and the front portion. So just follow along what I'm doing. Watch it. If you need to rewind it and watch it again, not a problem. But just follow along what I'm doing. We're going to be using thinned, of course, Abaddon Black, and when you put this on, you can already see a highlight come through because of the white, and it looks pretty good. That is a little secret, if you're watching this for the first time, about doing zenithal highlighting. The recesses are going to be dark, we're using black, but the white parts are going to stick through, and that's going to help us when we're doing our highlighting here in a little bit. But just slap it all on the armor, and it should look pretty good. For the sword, we're going to be using a little Iron Warriors. Now, I picked Iron Warriors because it's a silver mixed with a black. It's a darker color. I wanted this miniature to look more Lord of the Rings-ish, meaning more dark, not bright, with bright silver. But we're going to give him a corrupted sword, and I'm going to show you how we're doing this here in a minute. But hit that sword and then hit the belt buckle as well. For the sword handle and the hilt at the bottom, we're going to be using a little Retributor Armour. Again, we're going to corrupt this part, and you're going to see how we're going to do that here in a second. Make it look old and nasty, as I feel like this miniature is an old soul in the Lord of the Rings universe. Come back to kill the hobbits. And for the tassel, we're going to be using a little Jokaero Orange. I don't know how to say it, but that's the last base color we're using. Pretty simple. Okay, we're going to wash this miniature. The first thing we're going to do is 1 to 2 brushfuls of Nulin Oil. Second, 1 to 2 brushfuls of Carroburg Crimison. And 3 brushfuls of Lahmian Medium. And we're going to mix that all together. Go ahead and wash the entire cape and red portions in the front. For the black portions, we're going to be using Nulin Oil, and on the blade itself, you can typically, or not typically, but you can skip the blade if you want to, and the handle, as we're going to corrupt this here in a second, and it doesn't really make a difference, so you don't really have to do it, but feel free if you want to. Again, the blade handle, you can use Seraphim Sephia, or you can just skip it altogether. Alright, we're going to use Typhus Corrosion. It's a technical paint from Citadel, and we're going to put it all over the blade, the handle of the blade, and the knob at the end. Now this is going to look really old, and it's going to give it like a corrupted corrosion look. It's actually pretty decent from Citadel. Once it's dry, we're going to take Ryza Rust from Citadel, which is a dry paint, and we are going to dry brush it onto our blade and the handle and hilt of the blade. We're going to take a fine point brush, using a 5-0 brush, and we're going to edge highlight with Stormhost Silver. Now when we're edge highlighting, we're going to go at an angle, and we're going to just very gently edge the entire blade. Take your time when doing this and go around all of the cracks in the blade and all the way down the sharpest part of the blade. Just take your time. For the handle, we're just going to put some raised portions back in Retributor Armour, and this is to kind of give it a little, well, it's an old sword, but it's still got some shine to it type thing. And this is an optional step, but I put some blood for the blood god from Citadel on the end of it to make it look like this guy's been doing some killing. Hopefully not Frodo's friends, but doing some killing. We're going to do a reapplication of Jokaero Orange. That's not how you say it, but yep. And we're going to hit the top portions of it. We're going to hit some more of the raised sections only with Trollslayer Orange. And then using a little bit less paint, a little Firedragon Bright. And then desaturate it a little bit with a little Bloodletter, which is a glaze from Citadel. If you don't have this, use Carroburg Crimison or something else, or you can just skip it all together. Alright, for the focal point of this miniature, Khorne Red, we're going to be going on the cape. 2 brushfuls. 3 3 to 4 brushfuls of Lahmian Medium and go ahead and mix it together. We are going to build up our highlights in a series of paints. And what I mean by that is we are going to put on a layer, let it dry completely, and then put another layer on. We're going to do 3 layers per paint we're going to be using, as we're going to be doing several layers to build up the contrast of our cape. So follow along what I'm doing, and we're going to do the top portions of the cape. We're hitting all of the raised areas, and the bottom portions, the biggest portion you're going to do is with this color. What I mean by that is you are going to use this color the most on the surface area, and then every color we do from here on out is going to be less and less and less until it's barely just a little bit on the edges. So follow along what I'm doing and hit the top parts and the bottom parts and the front. For the front, you want to hit all of the raised areas, keep the recesses dark with the wash we put on there. Take a brushful of Evil Sunz Scarlet and mix it into your already mixed Khorne Red and Lahmian Medium. And again, we are building up those highlights on the top of the cape and the bottom of the cape. 2 to 3 layers, let it dry completely, and you're going to start seeing a buildup of color while we layer it. We're going to be doing a little bit less than we did on the Khorne Red before, but continue to do layering. So 2 to 3 layers. The same thing on the bottom. Now it might look a little bright when you put your first layer on there, but that's okay. It's going to dry completely, and we're going to build up our coloring, and it's going to look fantastic at the end. Same thing on the front. Hit those raised areas that you want to be hit. I'm doing kind of under the chin by the cape, and we're going to be doing on the side of the cape and the front portions, angling down and to the left as if the sun were hitting him from that angle. And I'm just putting another layer on, and I'm doing a little bit less this time just to build up that layering. Take another brushful of Wild Rider Red and put it into the coloring we've already created. Next step, we're going to do a whole new portion on the palette for the color. Again, we are going to be hitting the top portions, 2 to 3 layers. We're going to be doing less than we did with the last color this time, and we're building up our layering, and we're building up our transition from a dark Khorne Red to a very light, almost orangish red that we're going to be doing here in a minute. Same thing with the bottom, and don't forget to do the front of the miniature to include the cape and things that we've already hit before. So all we're doing is hitting the same spots we've chosen to do and building up the coloring on those portions with a less and less and less amount each time we do it. 2 to 3 layers. Using a new portion on your palette, 3 brushfuls of Lahmian Medium, and 1 brushful of Wild Rider Red. As you can see, I'm doing less of each portion. I'm working on the bottom, and I'm only about maybe halfway up. Same thing for the front of the cape and the side of the cape that you have already picked to be your spots that you wanted to make highlighted. Once done, take 1 brushful of Firedragon Bright and mix it into our second color that we mixed. Again, 2 to 3 layers, less than what we did before, and we're building up the colors that we have already done, and we're doing a little bit less. Should be at around 30% of the surface area that you had painted originally. And don't forget to hit the front of the miniature. I forgot to film it, but take 1 brushful in a new port of your well on your palette, 1 brushful of Firedragon Bright to 3 brushfuls of Lahmian Medium. And we are going to just hit the edges as I'm doing right here. You can even do a little bit on the front if you feel like it, but less is more in this part of painting the miniature. To finish off the metal parts, we're just going to be doing a dry brush. I wanted the focal point to be the cape and the red and the oranges. So just hit the metal portions with a dry brush of Iron Warriors. And just be careful when you're going around the cape. Make sure when you're doing a dry brush, you get almost all of that paint off the dry brush by using a paper towel or a towel or whatever you have. And just lightly going over it. Very subtle contrast. For the little button on the top, I just kept with the red. I'm using a Wazdakka Red. And for the raised portions, I'm using a little Abaddon Black. Because I feel like it's soul, death, destruction, chaos, and mayhem. And for the base real quick, we're just doing a little Stirland Mud. It's a technical paint from Citadel. Once it is dry completely, we're using a little Terminatus Stone as our first highlight while using a dry brush. For the last dry brush, we're going to use Tyrant Skull, which is another dry paint from Citadel. We're going to desaturate it with a little Agrax Earthshade, and that's all we're going to do. But we do have an optional part here coming up in a second. Hit that rim with Abaddon Black, or whatever color you want. If you're going to do brown, whatever you feel like doing. And I'm going to super glue a little piece of dead grass tuft. And this is optional, obviously, but I feel like it just gives it a little bit of nice looking death to add to it. Looks pretty good. And there you have it. It's a pretty good looking model, with the focal point being on the cape itself. You did a great job. I'm proud of you. You followed it, you did it. You probably learned something. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you can send me a comment below or like it. And maybe tell me what we got going on next, what you want to see next. I have Bloodborne that should have been shipped a long time ago, but Simon wants to take their time. Madara's coming up. I got a list of games that are coming up. 2021 is going to be a big year for Nerd Nights and painting miniatures and doing videos on those paintings. So thank you for watching. I can't thank you enough for taking time to watch the video and subscribing. If you aren't a subscriber, please subscribe. Go over to our Instagram, which is nerd.nights, and check us out on there, as we're always posting new stuff. Well, I appreciate everything, and thank you for watching. Paint on.